In the final year of World War II, as the Nazi war machine crumbled and high-ranking German generals were captured one by one, many of them still clung to the arrogance that had fueled their rise. For years, Nazi propaganda had painted American soldiers as weak, undisciplined, soft men who relied on machines rather than strength. German officers mocked the Americans openly, insisting that U.S. troops were factory workers in uniform, not real warriors. Even inside captured units, German generals would scoff and say that once they saw the Americans in person, they would confirm what their propaganda had always taught them. But everything changed the moment they were marched into the massive American-run POW camps. As they entered the gates, their mocking expressions froze. Instead of the frail, boyish soldiers they expected, they were met by towering American military police, men who looked more like athletes than soldiers, many well over 6 feet tall, broad-shouldered, powerful, and built from a lifetime of hard labor, sports, and abundant food. The shock on the Germans' faces was immediate. Some officers whispered to each other in disbelief, realizing how badly they had been lied to by their own propaganda ministries. The Americans stood guard with relaxed confidence, not cruel or boastful, but with a quiet physical dominance that made the German officers suddenly understand how their armies had been overwhelmed. One German general, accustomed to the rigid formal presence of Wehrmacht guards, was stunned to see American MPs casually carrying heavy equipment with one hand or tossing crates as if they weighed nothing. Another recorded in his diary that the Americans were the biggest, strongest men I had ever seen in uniform. And as days passed, the shock only grew. The Germans observed the American diet, huge servings of meat, milk, bread, fruit, vegetables, food German soldiers hadn't tasted in years. They saw the American soldiers' energy, discipline, and sheer physical capability. For the first time, the German high command truly understood why their blitzkrieg had broken against the U.S. advance. They had not been fighting weaklings. They had been fighting a nation of giants. Some generals later admitted privately that if they had known the physical strength and numbers of the Americans earlier in the war, they would never have mocked them. One POW officer recalled how the American guards helped set up bunks for wounded German officers, lifting heavy steel frames as though they were paper, while the Germans struggled even to move them. Others were shocked by the Americans' calm professionalism. These massive soldiers never used their size to intimidate prisoners. Instead, they enforced rules with quiet authority that made resistance unthinkable. For many German generals, that moment in the prison camp was the first time they truly saw the Americans, not the cartoonish image created by Joseph Goebbels, but the real men who had crossed oceans to defeat them. And as they sat in their barracks, humbled and silent, they realized that the mocking laughter they once directed at the Americans had been based on lies. The truth stood right in front of them. Bigger, stronger, better supplied, and impossible to ignore. It was a moment of reckoning they would remember for the rest of their lives.